All right, on the 26th of February 2025, the PDM, which is Parish Development Model and government initiative that is meant to leapfrog Ugandans into a socio-economic status, is going to be making 3 years. Here on Morning at NTV, we are here to register the successes and the stories to be told of the PDM and if it has actually achieved that particular objective. Also understanding the different pillars. People know PDM for literally one thing, just get money and put it into agriculture or a small business and then be able to get money out. But PDM is more than that. It has different pillars which we need to remind our audience about so that they can also benefit from those other pillars of the parish development model. I am Priscilla Regina Nalwoga. Welcome to our Tech Note. To have this discussion with me, I do have the men that are constantly on ground since day one of the parish development model, and they have been able to, work with it and get it to where it is 3 years later. Mr. Edward Katende, Coordinator PDM Activities under the Operation Wealth Creation. Good morning to you and welcome to Morning at NTV.
Good morning, Priscilla. Thank you for hosting us.
It's a pleasure to have you. We also do have Mr. Peter Ogule, who is a pillar manager with the Parish Development Model Best Management System under the Ministry of ICT. Good morning, Mr. Ogule.
Good morning, Priscilla. Pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to have you. So it's coming to 3 years of the Parish Development Model Program, and we can say, at least by the President's tours that he has been making to the different regions. He's been to Teso, he has been to Lango, he's been to Busoga, currently in Chigezi. As of last week, he did have a PDM tour there in Bukedi, Bugisu, and Sebe. And all this is to show that the different parts of Uganda have had a test of the Parish Development Model. Now, when this program was initiated first, it had a lot of contention. First, how the system would work, going down into the parish system. 2, how the monies were actually being distributed. 3, how that money was disappearing mostly under administrative costs. And 4, the different levels of corruption that came through as the program was being kick-started. It's coming to 3 years, and I know that those have been challenges. However, there are also some successes that we can recognize. Let's start, Mr. Katende, with looking at some of the successes that have been registered, tallying them alongside the objectives that had been of the parish development model.
Well, of course, one has to appreciate why the PDM. By understanding the economic vision of the government, which is to ensure that every household in the country has a decent income that enables it to afford the basics of life, which is food, shelter, clothing, health, education. So the President, who introduced the parish development model in his manifesto in 2021, is of the view that if you have money in your pocket, you can take your child to any school you want, you can pay for medical bills, you can feed your home, and you'll be very happy. So his focus is to ensure that each of these households has a decent income. And when we looked at the majority of Ugandans who were trapped in poverty, we found that a number of them were in the agricultural sector. So the PDM came to focus on those particular people, to move those who were in subsistence agriculture into the money economy. And we needed to give them the various tools that they needed to transition. Among those tools, as economists will tell you, that you need factors of production to make it big. So one of the key factors of production, which was identified in 21, was capital. So government introduced a parish revolving fund, which is a capital component of the PDM, where we give a grant to the parish, and then the parish lends 1 million to qualifying households which are in the subsistence economy. Then that household uses the 1 million to invest in a carefully selected but highly profitable agricultural enterprise. And the President, from his research on his farms around the country, he identified 7 enterprises which were highly profitable and practicable by this kind of people. The subsistence households in agriculture, we have farming on less than 2 acres. So land is a limitation. So you cannot just do any enterprise. So they came up with 7 enterprises, which is coffee, piggery, poultry, fish, dairy, fruits. But above all, every household must have food. So food became the 7th enterprise. And since the journey started, over 2 million households have received the capital from the government. But that 2 million households, of course, before you receive the capital, you are prepared first. They take you through the norms of how to select the enterprise, how to work on your mindset as a household, to have a vision of where you want to be in the next couple of years. So some of them selected enterprises that take longer to materialize, like coffee. It takes more than 2 years. But those that took short crops, those who were involved, for example, in piggery, have started to bear results. Because, of course, you get one man I saw in Iganga who invested in a pig. He paid about 600,000. Now he has 70 pigs. Imagine even if he sells each of those pigs at just 300,000, he's already getting his money back. So he's getting over 21 million. So when the president is moving around, he's looking at these early signs that the PDM, if well implemented, if people follow his message of doing commercial farming with some bit of calculation, where the profitability, the risk analysis, the market analysis, it can actually transform people's lives. And I think as we mark the first 3 years of implementation, we have started seeing early signs of success at a household level. All right.
Talk to us about some of those successes.
Of course, I have mentioned the successes is mainly how do we measure success. You measure it in terms of the assets that the household is getting. You measure it in terms of the enterprise growth. So if you look at a man like the one I've talked about in Iganga, 1 pig in 2023, in 2025, he has 70 of them. By God's grace, his numbers will grow. Actually, his problem now is limitation. So the enterprise is growing.
Of the 7 enterprises that you have mentioned, which one seems to be most lucrative and benefiting to household, but also giving returns to the PDM model?
They are all equally good, only that some take longer. So the gestation period for some is long. So majority of Ugandans, about 13%, have borrowed to invest in piggery. About 12% are investing in poultry. About another 12% are investing in coffee. I do coffee as a farmer. I do piggery as a farmer. And I know they are highly lucrative enterprises. As we speak, coffee prices are the best for the farmers. And you are seeing campaigns like here in Buganda, it is a highly lucrative business. So people who have invested in coffee certainly are on the right path in the PDM. Those who are invested in piggery are also reaping. Of course, there are issues, there are risks that are involved in agriculture and business in general, but overall it is a positive outlook.
Before I go to Mr. Ogule, let's also flip the coin of success in terms on return on investment. How much has been able to be returned to the coffers, and in terms of percentages, those that are meant to be returning within this period, how many of them?
The parish revolving fund is a development fund. It's not a commercial banking. So in this fund, we give the borrower a grace period of 2 years, which means that borrower, if for example, is investing in poultry, that borrower can reinvest the profits and grow their business. So that by the time they start repayment, and removing 1 million from the business will not shock his business. So we have given them a grace period of 2 years, and a number of them are just coming to the end of that grace period. So recoveries will start very soon. But in urban areas like Kampala and Wachiso, where people invested in highly moving goods, For example, some are doing chapatis, they are roasting chicken. We saw in Iganga, one guy started with 1 sigiri. He now has 15 and is employing another 14 Ugandans in Iganga. So that long enough grace period has enabled some of these enterprises to grow. So very soon, people will start repaying, but you have to repay the loan. You have 2 years grace period, and you have another 12 months to repay the loan. So the entire money should be repaid within 3 years, so that other people will borrow. So this is the difference between the PDM and other microfinance opportunities that are out in the market.
All right, Mr. Ogule, all this that Mr. Katende is talking about, of course, works simultaneously only with data. So that means that there must be data that should be guiding the decisions that have to be made both at government level, local government level, and then also making sure that this model is actually active and people are partaking of it. Which brings us to the parish-based management system. We want to have a better understanding of how does it work in terms of collecting data, information about beneficiaries.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers, once again. I'll start from the mandate given to the Ministry of ICT under the PDM to put in place systems to basically automate all processes across the PDM spectrum. When that mandate was given, like you rightly stated, we were asked to put in place systems. We were also asked to support the data collection exercise all across the country. And again, that aligns with what my colleague Katenda has just mentioned, that PDM, indeed, it is a different initiative of its kind compared to all the others before, because it is data-driven. There is nothing that is done in PDM. There is no beneficiary that gets funding without being known by government. And indeed, in the automation process of PDM, we, as a pillar and collectively with all other MDAs, have been able to, in the past couple of years, put in place systems that are supporting PDM implementation. We have put together what we call the parish-based management information system that does profiling of households and all individuals in the households, and also profiles communities. By communities, I mean all the characteristics of a community is profiled for purpose of knowing where we are now and where we want to go. And most important to note also is that in this profiling exercise, we have been able to date, profile over 7 million households. We have also, out of the 7 million households we have supported, the system has supported disbursement of over 2.1 trillion shillings to the qualifying beneficiaries. And most importantly, again, to note is that we are able to now deliver in line with what the cabinet had, the roles that the cabinet had set out for us, to make sure that, one, there is a repository in place where indeed all the beneficiaries and all households are captured, and based on that data we are able to ensure that funds reach out to the intended beneficiaries. So the tracking of over 2.1 trillion beneficiaries is also another success story we can talk about today, and we can actually again monitor and track these funds to the last mile individual that received it. So I would want to say greatly PDM to date is one of those strategies or initiatives of government where government at a click of the button can know who the beneficiary is, where does that beneficiary come from, and which enterprise group does this beneficiary belong to, meaning which village, again, and also which parish does this beneficiary belong to, and which district does this beneficiary belong to, and what specific enterprise is this beneficiary engaged in? Like it has been mentioned, the piggery beneficiary, we have that individual on record, it's on system, and we can be able to.
So when you say profiling, could you give us the exact kind of data that you do collect in order to then create the profiles of PDM beneficiaries? Okay,
now when we talk of characteristics of an individual at household level, we're looking at a number of things that range from the kind of economic activities that the individual is engaged in and intends to engage in, of course. We look at the household income, okay, and then we also look at status of welfare, social welfare of the household. Basically, we look at all these and many others to ensure that we are well informed that this beneficiary actually is in the subsistence economy or not. And that also guides, again, the community meetings and the community engagements to validate that data and ensure that the legitimate or the intended beneficiaries actually benefit from the PRF, the Parish Revolving Fund.
Now, of course, this is ICT related work, formulation and automation of this data, collection and storage of it is another thing. And I know that you must ensure accuracy, you must ensure privacy, you must ensure security, all this being sensitive information that should have high protection to it. How are you ensuring that at the ministry level?
At the ministry level, first of all, what we have done is to ensure that the systems are robust and secure, but also we've ensured that the infrastructure where the system is hosted is a very secure environment where the systems are hosted, but also we have ensured at system level that we implemented controls that ensure that no one accesses this data unless you're authorized to. And so those system controls have helped us over time to limit the level of access of every individual to the data that we are collecting and storing as government.
All right. The ICT roadmap was launched just a few months, we can call it months ago. But then that really gives us a picture as a country that as far as ICT is concerned, we're not really out there yet in terms of accessibility and affordability. And this is data that you have to collect across different layers of affordability and accessibility. So what are some of the challenges that you have faced in collecting and gathering this data, especially from rural areas, underserved communities?
We have indeed faced a number of challenges, and that doesn't go without saying. We, in the course of the implementation of PDM, or the PDMIS specifically, have encountered challenges to do with device, low level of device access at the rural level, this, whereas this was a very critical, whereas device access was very critical to the success of data collection, we had to work within the technology aspect itself to create technology that would allow us would allow data collectors to use their own devices, but don't store the data in their devices. Their devices were more like passive devices to send the data to where they're supposed to be stored. But also, in the course of time, just before the end of last year, we managed to, as a ministry, to avail over 163 computers to the district local governments, but also work with the UBOS to make available tablets that were initially used for census to all the parishes. So all the parish chiefs now have devices, they have tablets. All the SACCOs, the PDM SACCOs, have also tablets. The community development officers also have access to tablets. But again, we also had challenges again when it came to SACCOs also again getting access to these devices initially. But again, now that is something of the past because they all have access to devices now. There were also challenges, of course, to do with low adoption of technology. technology does not just work alone. If there are no people to get it running, it will always have some hiccups. So at the beginning, indeed, we had quite low level of adoption, but it was a mindset thing. So in the course of time, we've also managed to educate, sensitize the communities, sensitize the users of this system to ensure that they come on board. Okay. And great success, like I just stated. We have over 3 million users now on the PDMIS that are helping and supporting the implementation of PDM. So that explains from one individual to over 3 million users. So there's been some success registered there, though there was a challenge before. There were also a challenge. There was a challenge to do with. There was a challenge of skills, ICT skills, low level of ICT skills. But you see, over time, we have tried as much as possible to skill the users of these systems, organize virtual classrooms for them. And that also, again, has helped us to see a green light today, that a number of these users are now able to use the system, maneuver, and get work done.
Okay. Yeah. That is calling for a lot of funding. It begs the question, is the funding also coming from the same fund, or is it under the budget of the Ministry of ICT?
When it comes to funding, I must say that we have been guided as the implementing entities of PDM to repurpose or reprioritize our budgets towards the implementation of PDM. Of course, there might be some little bit of low-level funding, but that is understandable because PDM is not a new thing, we've been told, and indeed we believe it is not a new thing. So there is funding that is meant for implementation of ministry activities of budget. So that is within that funding is where we are able to implement most of these Pillar 6 related activities.
All right, Mr. Katende, in your coordination capacity, let's look at the impact of this information management system, especially to beneficiaries and communities, looking at how the system has been able to help local governments and other stakeholders in, one, making informed decisions, and two, resource allocation, but also to ensure that they can track the development at the back of the PDM.
Certainly, one of the things I think Peter didn't touch when you asked about what we include in the profile. You know, I told you that the government wants people to have an income to meet the basics of life. So those basics are actually monitored in the register. So first questions they would ask at the beginning would be issues like the quality of the house, access to water, clothing, whether the person has the shoes or not, whether the person has toilet, different questions. So over time, we would go back and ask the same question and see if there has been any change. I think that is great information. The other information that is up there is the GIS coordinate of the person. So I would now tell that Katende's home is this. If the president wants to drive there today, he does not need anybody to take him there. He just follows Google Maps and he will get to the particular address. I think that is a very important achievement. And thirdly, we capture every national ID, every person's national ID. So let's assume one person decides to default. So that particular person will be blacklisted because they can never borrow again from the system using the same national ID. So that is extremely important. Then we capture their telephone numbers. Of course, telephone numbers keep changing. Somebody can give you a wrong telephone number, but his system is integrated with other systems like NIRA. You cannot just lie and give us a fake national ID. It's connected. It is linked, integrated with banks like the government banks that have now developed a mobile wallet called Wendy. So they are integrated there. So in that entire process, you collect a lot of data that would enable these people who have for so many years been excluded by the financial space, because the banks would say, we don't know this customer. So this data that we are collecting will enable any lender to do a KYC. And over time, we can even use this system for credit profiling, getting somebody's credit history, and therefore improve their chances of borrowing from other sources. This kind of data was not there, and nobody would ever trust this villager that they don't know about. So we are now getting them into that money economy where they would be known by other lenders. And then those lenders will build on what government is putting there. We are putting about 2.7 trillion now, but the private sector has so many trillions that they can lend, but they didn't know much about these people, and these people were therefore considered as a big risk. That was one. Two, these people were not doing any serious economic activity apart from feeding themselves, which was a great thing. But now they are coming into the economy by producing for the market, and they are able to sell something, and we can capture all of that data. So ultimately, it helps the government to understand the household. Okay. It helps us to even look at what are the key factors that a household considers before they make any decision, either to invest or what. So, speaking
of key factors, I know that some of the key groups that were very much considered in the PDM were women, youth, and marginalized people, or people with disabilities. And I know that there's particular percentages in the disbursed monies to those groups of people. How is this information management system helping you guide to service those people optimally? Actually, before I came this morning, I checked on the numbers. I could see that 39 of the people who have borrowed the money are youth. So cabinet gave us, I think the requirement was 30%, but we have already exceeded the 30% mark. By a click of a button, I didn't have to search here and there. I just clicked the button and say, how many of these are young people? How many of these are women? How many of these are people with disability? So we are able to, whatever information you now need, you can put in a query and you get the answers you want. And for me, that is the uniqueness of PDM compared to all other government programs, the digitization. And I remember when the president was being sworn in May 2021, he said all transactions must be digitized. Two, there should be no civil servants. And I think in terms of the money, so I think we have achieved that, because we send the money from the Ministry of Finance to a bank account opened by the parish using their PDM circle. And there is no intervention of any traceability. There is traceability, there is transparency. You can trace each and every coin that has gone down. How does this then change the face of fraud and corruption, Mr. Gule, that had become of the Parish Development Model Fund?
The Parish Development Management Information System indeed has helped to create a very transparent environment, and try as much as possible to eliminate the involvement of civil servants in the decision making of who gets the money and not. Like Dr. Katenda has mentioned, we have. Like I said earlier on, we have controls on the system that makes sure that it gives the powers to the people, to the circles, to decide who gets this money. We have also instituted controls that helps to ensure that the right beneficiary gets this money. How? When a beneficiary is being profiled, we profile and get to know whether you are youth. We get to know if you are a person with disability, you are a woman, you are among the category for the quota for women, and the adult and the elderly ones. And then when it comes, we also pick the telephone numbers of each of these beneficiaries. So we ensure that at point of application for the loan, you have control. The system sends you a message, what we call a one-time password. So no one else has access to that password except you as a beneficiary. Okay. So it makes sure that unless you authorize another person to use your password, then surely we don't expect any more fraud cases around PDM, except in circumstances where there is consent, maybe. Yes.
All right.
But on that one, sorry to interrupt, you see, there is a saying that you can run but you can't hide. The beauty with digitalization, you leave a record. They can trace you. So you steal the money at your own risk. Most of the cases you have had, people being arrested, it is actually the system that will lead you to the person. Okay. And you cannot deny that I'm not the one who stole it because there is evidence.
All right, Mr. Gule, the other thing that we then want to understand, because you earlier talked about integration, so it begs the question, does this system intend to be integrated with other technological and financial platforms? For example, mobile money is here. It's the new banking. Yes. Let's be realistic. We need to accept that. There's the digital wallets that we had earlier talked about, and really enhancing financial inclusion further.
As a means to indeed enhance financial inclusion, like you've stated, first and foremost, yes, the PDMIS intends to integrate with all other digital platforms. And to demonstrate that the PDMIS has integrated with a couple of core banking systems in Uganda. It has also integrated with the Wendy mobile wallet, which is a consortium of the 3 government banks. And indeed, the capability to integrate with any other system is already built in the system. So we believe that, yes, if there is any system, any financial system that we are guided or asked to integrate with, we can integrate with them. And we've seen, like you've just stated, as a means of making sure that there is financial inclusion, there is a lot of success that has been registered with the Wendy mobile wallet, where now beneficiaries don't have to move long distances to get to access their funds, where cost of withdrawal transaction costs have been greatly reduced. And you recall at the very beginning of PDM, there was, of implementation of PDM, there were lines of people in several banks waiting to, open bank accounts and get onboarded. And today, all they need is to dial a USSD code, have a virtual account, belong to an enterprise group, belong to a circle, and they can access their funds at the comfort of their homes.
Still on integration and other national initiatives, because it's not only PDM that of course it's now being the one flag bearing, but there are other initiatives. Mr. Katende, operation creation, wealth creation is one there, Bondavagagawali, all those, they're still existing, they're still operational. UWEP, the Youth Fund, all these also require integration. So it begs the question, how do we use that system to be able to integrate and ensure that all the other national initiatives are well catered to push the socio-economic development drive that we are on as a country? Of
course, the PDM has been misunderstood to mean the Parish Revolving Fund, which is unfortunate. Parish Revolving Fund is a small component of this whole thing, but PDM is government changing the way it has been doing business to deliver services to the people. So ideally, we started with the money, and we are getting into the agricultural space, for example, digitizing extension, coming up with digital marketplaces, registering all the farmer groups across the country, having traceability of in the agricultural value chain. All this is work in progress. You cannot digitize the whole country at once. You started with one group, learned some serious lessons, saw the challenges, fixed those challenges. As Peter said, we did not have most of these gadgets at the parish level. Now we have at least 3 gadgets at the parish. We can collect as much information. So gradually, all other systems are getting into this. But luckily, some sectors like education, like health, already had their own management information systems. So it is now a matter of plugging in from their technical side. Okay. Because like we have seen with other platforms, the PDMIs can integrate with a lot of available systems out there. Okay. And believe me or not, if we continue like this unabated for the next 3 years, Uganda will be far ahead of any African country.
All right. In conclusion, I'll end with Mr. Gule wanting to pick your mind on an opinion, the role of technology in especially systems as the information management system with the PDM in achieving the vision of a digitally inclusive and economically prosperous Uganda.
I think the role of digitization in the socio-economic transformation of any country speaks for itself. Like we've mentioned and talked about over and over again, if you want to achieve efficiency in service delivery, then speak technology and act technology. Okay. If you want to achieve a timeliness and effectiveness as well, you need to start speaking technology. And I believe as a country, Uganda, when we fully adopted technology in all aspects of our service delivery as a country, as a government, then we'll be able to achieve harness some of the benefits I've just talked about: efficiency, timeliness, transparency, and of course, the end game is to see that service reaches out to the wananchi, the most affordable.
Mr. Gule, thank you so much for the work that you're doing under the Ministry of ICT in ensuring that there's a digital traceability to the PDM funds. Mr. Katenda, thank you so much for the coordination work that you do across the country to ensure that as many Ugandans get to benefit from the parish development model. Now, you better be one of those Ugandans as we get to mark the 3 years of the PDM. This brings us to the end of our Tech Note. Our Kickstarter is coming up next, the case of Dr. Kizza Besigye in the last 48 hours and what would be of the next 48 hours. Talking to a close ally of his with Chris Igenyu coming up.